Now to one of our top stories today. There's a brand new poll out giving Donald Trump a slight lead over rival Hillary Clinton. New CNN poll shows Trump edging out Clinton by 2 points, 45-43. But is the media giving Trump his due? Howard Kurtz looks at that, Fox News media analyst and host of Media Buzz. And Howie, good morning to you. Are they?
Good morning, Bill.
Will they?
Well, it's been a slow process. As you pointed out, that new CNN poll showing Donald Trump with a 2-point lead among likely voters. A Fox News poll last week had Hillary Clinton with a 2-point lead, both within the margin of error. Now, even with Clinton ahead in most battleground states, some of those are by slim margins, and the race is clearly tightening from the days when she had a double-digit lead. So why do many pundits still act like Trump is a real long shot and Clinton practically a shoo-in? As recently as Friday, Politico, Bill ran these two headlines. Number one, Clinton's advisors tell her to prep for a landslide. Number two, inside Trump Tower facing grim reality, with Trump's campaign described as, quote, teetering and, again, quoting, threatening to collapse. Such judgments seem rather premature. Now, the tightening polls come as Trump has been reaching out to African Americans, but hasn't been able to break through a wall of media skepticism, as we saw this weekend when Trump visited a black church in Detroit.
I fully understand that the African American community has suffered from discrimination and that there are many wrongs that must still be made right.
The New York Times said it was an uncharacteristic step for someone who has campaigned for president as a blunt provocateur, dismissing complaints of racial insensitivity as political correctness. Now, some commentators say this isn't really about the GOP winning more African American voters.
Do you think he was reaching out to white voters yesterday?
Absolutely. He's in a black church. He's there clapping and swaying. And go, look, he's not a racist. He's there with black people.
Others seem puzzled by Trump's efforts or dismiss him for ideological reasons.
He comes into this church, and the word choice that Donald Trump used, it sounds as though he wants to be a savior.
This is an insult to our intelligence to come to us acting as if just saying that we ought to come together, but not saying how that is going to bridge that gap is insulting.
Now, it's fair for the press to point out that Trump hadn't appeared before a black audience in the past, that he battled allegations of housing discrimination decades ago and once embraced the birther movement in questioning President Obama's citizenship. But are the media setting the bar impossibly high? If journalists refuse to credit Trump with at least trying to reach out to black voters, that too often feels biased. And you see some of the same thing in the polls.
Yeah, and you wrote a piece, Why Are Many Pundits Still Convinced That Trump Can't Win? And you referred to two headlines, right, that you wrote about in the piece on Politico. Does a poll like we just showed from CNN change this?
Eventually, it would change it. I see the media as a lagging indicator. After the two conventions and when Hillary had that 12-point lead in early August, everybody in the news business, I should say almost everybody, just became convinced that she was going to win and it would be almost impossible for Donald Trump to make up the gap, particularly in those swing states. Now, the polls are tightening, as they often do, but the media are lagging behind. A couple more polls like the one we saw from CNN, where it's at least even within a couple of points, or Trump ahead by 2, 3, 4 points. The narrative will change, but often belatedly.
That phrase you use, a lagging indicator in the media. Have you always felt that way? Have you seen that pattern before, Howie?
I've seen it to be more pronounced in this campaign where, remember, all of these same political analysts, most of them, again, I should say, absolutely convinced Donald Trump could not win the Republican nomination. But even on other stories, you know, often the country and the public are ahead of the press, and the press has to catch up because we tend to cling to the other narrative that was working, and then somebody bonks us over the head and says, oh, yeah, what about these new polls? So I think you'll see a change if the polls move in this direction.
Listen, don't get hit over the head, okay? Howard Kurtz there in D.C., thank you very much. Talk to you real soon. Thank you, Howard.
Thanks, Bill.